everybody, it is time for SG6. We have been working on, I guess, 5 videos now that talk about sinusoidal graphing, and we have done a specific one on the value of D, which adjusts the midline, and the value of A, which adjusts the amplitude, and we are now at B. All right, so here we go. Find and open email. Okay, same as all the other videos. Turn off the coast graph. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had to bring up the Desmos graph. So this is the one that I emailed you. And according to my settings, A should be at 1, B should be at 1, and C and D should be at 0. So we've got our handy dandy standard sine curve right there, which has a midline of 0, matching the D, an amplitude of 1, 1 up, 1 down. So today is going to be messing around with B. And this one's actually fun. Well, I think they're all fun, but you know, maybe that's just a little math nerd in me coming out. So B is 1. And as I, ooh, look at that. As I change it, as I make B larger, I'm getting, it's doing this. My frequency is changing. The length of my period is changing. Because when, let's go back to our standard, B is 1, it took 360 degrees to do an entire cycle. When I make B is 2, oops, there, it's an entire cycle only takes 180. Here, and I'll give you the tip right now. It's later on the sheet, but I'm going to give you the tip right now. If B is 2, it means that I'm going to go 1 cycle, 2 cycles by the time I get to 360. So if B is big, it's going to compress our graph. It's going to make it squishy, make the period shorter. Now, could it be a coincidence that when B is 2, we get 2 cycles before 360? Let's see. What if we change this? Let's do 3. Oh, no, I don't like it anymore because it didn't go 360. Oh, there it is. I just didn't have it set right. All right, let's see. So I've set B to 3. And here we go. 1 cycle. Uh-oh, hold on. Somebody's at the door. Okay, so back to where I was. B is 3. So 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles. That's pretty darn cool. So then what do you think is going to happen? I'll put this back to our standard. I was like, back to my standard picture. Okay, there's B is 1. So if B gets bigger, sorry, as B gets bigger, it compresses. You get more and more wobbles. That's a technical sign, wobbles. What if we make B less than 1? How about, let's make it easy. Let's make it a half or 0.5. So think, picture in your mind what you might see. And I will make it happen. Look at that. Woo! All right. Well, there's a couple of things to show you. First of all, we can look at it in terms of I get half a cycle, 4.5 cycles by the time I get 360. But I'm just, oh, no, goes in this way. There. You can see a complete cycle now takes 720. So as B gets smaller and smaller, my graph is getting bigger and bigger. Let me get the words right. The period is increasing. And just to make our lives simple, I'm never going to make B a negative number. So we do not have to worry about that. Sorry, I'm staring at the paper. So let's fill it in. I'll flip my camera in a second, but I'd rather still be looking at this while I do it. Okay, so general answer, what happens to the value, what changes the value of B changes? The period changes. Now, that's okay if you remember what period means, but I would maybe draw pictures or I'm just gonna put how long it takes for the cycle to repeat. And the mathy word for this would be period, period changes. You could also use frequency, but let's not worry about that. I think I've been using period, so we'll stick with that. And as B gets bigger, let's see what happens. Remember, as B gets bigger, the bigger it is, the more cycles, the more compressed it is, the more cycles you get. More compressed. And I'm just going to put squishy. The graph is, and as B gets closer to 0, if we go the other direction, it's going to get flatter. No, I shouldn't say that. It doesn't get flatter, it just expands. Because if we look at this, as I'm making the changes, it's still between 1 and -1. We're not changing the amplitude. We're just taking it and we're stretching it if it's B is small, and we're compressing it if B is big. The more the graph expands. Okay. So as B gets bigger, now if I'm going to use my, hold on, I will flip over to the other camera. Boop. So you can see what I've been writing. Okay. So general answer, the period changes, how long it takes for a cycle to repeat. And again, period is the mathy word we've been using. It's the correct one. Okay. So as B gets bigger, the graph gets more compressed. So the period, I'm going to put this on top, gets shorter. And as B gets closer to 0, the period gets longer. It expands. Okay. So let's look at which, and I need the picture again. So we're going to look at amplitude, max, min, period, and midline. I think you already know the answer to that, but let's prove it. There we go. All right, so here, I'm going to turn this part on. Turn on the camera. Look at it go. Oh, forget it went negative. All right, so my amplitude, let's just get closer here. Okay, maybe I'm going to stop that. It's a little distracting. Oh, let's just put it, I'll make it 2. Why not? All right, so my amplitude, no matter what I do here, the distance from a midline and up, it's not changing. Right? It's almost, well, there's boundaries and it's stuck within that boundary. So amplitude, not changing. As we mess around with this, the maximum is not changing. Neither is the minimum. But the period sure is, and not the midline, because our midline is remaining at 0. Remember, let's take a moment here and do a little review. Since we're on Brightspace, we'll make that. I just like them when they're whole numbers, easier to see. How do I change my amplitude? Which of A, B, C, or D do I need to mess with to change amplitude? You need to know this. Yes, A, right? There's my amplitude. And for fun, I can make that one negative. Because remember, if its amplitude is negative, sorry, if A is negative, not the amplitude is never negative. It's always a whole number, or always a positive number. But if I make A negative, it goes down first. Let's put it back to positives. Actually, let's put it back to 1 where it was. Check. Now to change our maximum, minimum, and midline, That's all got to do with taking the graph and shifting the whole thing in one direction or another. And if you remember, that's what the value of D is. That's going to shift our midline. So I'm going to make my midline to be 1, and we can see the whole graph is shifted. Here's our middle again. QL. Oh, okay. Going to flip the camera again. I was somewhat surprised one day to realize that you guys don't see all that computery stuff. All you see is me staring at the screen while I'm doing that. So don't laugh too hard if I have silly looks on my face as I'm trying to figure out what am I doing. Okay, so this says how many cycles are there between 0 and 360? Oh, look, I made them almost all the same size. Okay, so it's pretty squishy, but there's my 360, 360, 360, 360. Okay, so I started out easy. There's one complete cycle. Now on this one, let's see if I can do this. There's one complete cycle. And a second complete cycle. So there's 2. I may not have enough markers for this. All right, how about you count on that one and let's see if we come up with the same answer. One. Of course, you don't need to do this. I just like my highlighters. 3. 4. Oh, the gods are looking after me. And 5. Okay, so 5 cycles. And then this last one, that's not even a whole cycle, right? Because the whole cycle is top and then below. So we've got actually 0.5 or half one. So once you know that, the last question actually becomes pretty simple because this is going to be my B value. So there's a 0.5. There's the 5. There's the 2. And there's my standard. Ta-da! Oh, it got really messy there. Now you should have a pretty good understanding of B. Perfect. Have a lovely day.